So friends, let me introduce to you the vice presidential candidate for the Democratic Party, the next vice president of the United States of America, Senator Kamala Harris.
Oh, thank you, Reverend Lee, and for your leadership and your voice and your courage, your commitment, for your love of our country, it being rooted in a faith that teaches us so well that we must always fight for justice if we are to live God's plan for all of us. And I just want to thank you. You've been a real inspiration to so many people, and I think that your story and the way you live your life and use your word is about who we really are, which is a country that is born out of many things, but can always fight for unity and togetherness and kindness. So thank you for that. And to everyone, greetings, all my friends. You know, I was supposed to be with you in person today, and other things happened, but I love North Carolina. And I was there I think it was last week. We lose track of time these days. And I will certainly be back. But it is so great to be with everyone. I want to thank all of the leaders, Sarah Gerbach, Mayor Manheimer. Thank you. I know I was supposed to be in Asheville with you. My dear, dear, dear sister and friend, Alma Adams, for all that you do. And thank you for always sending me such a kind and inspiring note. Mayor Lyles, thank you always. And of course, Anthony Hamilton, I'm such a huge fan. I said, Anthony Hamilton, the singer? I was so excited to be with you. And thank you for your talent and your skill and your gift that you just share with so many of us. And Bibi, same thing. Bibi wrote this most beautiful song about this moment. And thank you for the gift of your voice. And again, thank you to everyone. So as you all know, I was supposed to be there, and late last night, we got word that two of the folks involved with our campaign, one who is a flight crew staff, he doesn't work on our staff, but works on the flights. And my communications director, Liz, that they contracted COVID-19. I've talked to both of them. They are well. They are doing well. The last time I saw them was 7 days ago. I've had many tests now, and they are all negative. And I am fine. I'm good. But we want to just be cautious, because that's where we've been as a campaign, to take this seriously and to hopefully model the kind of behaviors we should all be engaged in to be safe. But I'm on the road virtually, as you can see. I just left Wisconsin to join you in North Carolina, and I'll be back physically on the road on Monday. But I want to just thank you all for accommodating the change in schedule, and for all that you do. And I'd remind everybody, let's adhere to the CDC guidelines and be safe, and as an extension of loving thy neighbor. So here we are. We are 19 days away from this election, which is going to decide so much about not only the future of our country, but really who we are presently, and what we want for ourselves and what we believe in. Like Joe says all the time, this campaign and this election is really about a fight for the soul of our nation. And I really do believe that. And the stakes, of course, could not be higher. We're facing at least 4 crises, all happening at once. Of course, COVID and what that has meant in terms of a public health crisis. And I don't need to tell North Carolina what that has meant in terms of, nationally, over 215,000 people have died in just the last several months. So many because of the nature of the virus, without family to be there with them for their last hours on Earth. 7.5 million or more people who've contracted this virus with unknown long-term impact, but which also, by the way, is going to mean that there are now 7.5 million people who will now have this new pre-existing condition, which which should require protection so that insurance companies can't deny them care. We're looking at an economic crisis. Over 30 million people in just the last several months filed for unemployment. We're in the midst of a hunger crisis we're not talking enough about. People are in food lines, hoping and praying that by the time they get to the end of the food line, there'll be food left. Mothers, I saw a number of mothers, 1 in 5 mothers is describing her children under the age of 12 as being hungry. We're in the midst of a crisis that is about a generational crisis and a reckoning on the issue of racial justice and injustice in our country. And then we're also facing a climate crisis where, my home state of California, so many Western states, Oregon, Washington, are looking at wildfires that are raging. Families are becoming displaced. Firefighters have died fighting those fires. On the Gulf Coast, how those storms have been ravaging communities. In places like Iowa, the flooding that has caused farmers to lose a whole season of crops. So all this is happening. And I believe that at this moment, with these crises converging, it is requiring all of us to really ask this question, which is a question about, who are we? Who are we as a country? And I think we all know we are better than this. And we have to fight. And we have to fight in particular for the ideals of our country and fight for what's right and fight for each other's, for a recognition of each other's dignity. That is, as much as anything, what is at play. And I'm so honored to be on this ticket with Joe Biden. The contrast between he and Donald Trump could not be more stark in every way and on every subject that I just hit upon. On the one hand, you have Joe Biden, who together with Barack Obama created the Affordable Care Act, which brought health care to millions of people. Joe Biden and I want to come in and expand the Affordable Care Act. But what it did, we have to remember, is it said, and as part of its spirit, and Joe feels very strongly about this, healthcare and access to healthcare should be a right, not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And so the Affordable Care Act expanded healthcare so over 20 million people who didn't have coverage got coverage. It said people with pre-existing conditions like, you may know somebody or you yourself may have diabetes. That was considered a pre-existing condition, high blood pressure, breast cancer. And this Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, said, no, you cannot be discriminated against and be denied or charged more for health coverage because you have a pre-existing condition. And again, now we're looking at over 7.5 million people who have this new pre-existing condition of COVID-19. And Joe Biden is saying, let's keep that intact and expand the Affordable Care Act. So on the one hand, you have Joe Biden. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who is in court right now in the United States Supreme Court trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And, I said it, I think on the debate stage, he's got some weird obsession with trying to get rid of anything that Barack Obama and Joe Biden created. But when you look at the issue of the Affordable Care Act and its protections, and you couple that with the fact that we are in a public health crisis, it is absolutely outrageous. And that's one of the biggest areas that is impacting North Carolinian voters and people across our country, which is the thing that keeps people up at night. The thing which is that they don't want to go bankrupt. Families should never go bankrupt because they need to pay for health care and they can't afford it. So these are some of the issues that are at play. Our economy. Joe's plan, our plan is about saying we're going to invest in our economy and in working people. We will invest in infrastructure and create millions of jobs. We will invest in our small businesses. I have met small business leaders in North Carolina, incredible innovators who deserve to have the support not only to stay open or open back up after the pandemic, but access to low interest loans so that they can continue to thrive and grow. These are the kinds of things that Joe and I are committed to. We're committed to saying that we need to invest in public schools and triple Title I funding. that impacts a lot of schools in North Carolina. Schools, Title I funding, that's a fancy way of basically saying schools that are in low tax-based communities. And so they are schools that have great need, and that need should be met. We're saying we're going to triple that funding, which includes then supporting the teachers who teach in those schools. These are some of the issues that are at play in this election. And speaking specifically about the impact in North Carolina, look, COVID, there have been over 236,000 cases and over 3,800 deaths in North Carolina because of this virus. In terms of the economy, which in many ways is being compared to the Great Depression, in North Carolina, August unemployment was 6.5%, which is almost twice what it was in February. And don't forget, Donald Trump knew about this on January 28th and didn't tell the people when we could have planned, when folks could have planned and could have figured out maybe how they could save up a little extra if it was likely that they would be out of work for a while. But since in North Carolina, since February when it was 3.6, it is now in August, 6.5% unemployment. In North Carolina, 1 in 10 adults did not have enough to eat in the month of September. That's what we have in terms of the reporting. And when you look at the number of unemployment claims, almost 40% of Black Americans were filed for unemployment in the month of August, despite being 22% of the population. So these are some of the realities. These are the facts of what is going on. And then you look at what Joe is talking about. And again, it's about investing in American workers and in American families, investing in infrastructure, investing in our schools, investing in our future, and doing it in a way that we retain and return dignity to the White House, in a way that we have a president who has in his deepest heart a desire, a strong desire based on a history of doing this, to stand up for working families, to stand up for the dignity of work, and to stand up for the dignity of all people, and recognizing that we are a strong nation when we are unified. So my last point is this. This election ends in 19 days. Yes, that's what I said. Kamala, did you say it ends in 19 days? Yes, I did. I said it ends in 19 days. Because you see, North Carolina early voting begins today on October 15th.
I can't believe I actually did it.
And so
Stop me.
We want you to start voting October 15th. We want you to start voting and vote early. And here's the other thing. We want to make sure that we vote up and down the ticket, because you've got an important Senate race in North Carolina. You got to reelect my friend. We worked together when we were AGs, Roy Cooper, and reelect him as governor. And you got to make sure that we do everything we can to deal with this up and down the ticket. In North Carolina, you're one of the few states that you're voting for president, senator, and governor all at the same time. So let's make sure everybody votes and votes early. And then the last one I'll make is please go to iwillvote.com and sign up to make sure that you know where you can vote, to make sure you're registered. But more than anything else, please vote early. Make a plan to vote early. Encourage your friends and your families to make a plan to vote early. Figure out where you're going to vote, when you're going to vote, and get out there, because the most important thing that we can do at this moment in time is make sure our voices are heard. And the best way to do that is through our votes. So thank you all very, very much. And on behalf of Joe and myself, we cannot tell you how grateful we are for all that you do every day and all that we will together do for these next 19 days.